Good afternoon, everyone. You're here at today's virtual Raleigh City Council meeting. Our first item on the agenda is recognition of special awards. I'm going to call up, Doka Hami from Planning and Development. Haven't seen you in a long time.
So actually, Mayor Tom Hosey from Planning and Development Services is actually in attendance to receive this recognition award.
Okay, well, then we'll go with Tom.
And so before Tom starts speaking, I'd just like to give a little bit of background on the recognition, if I may.
Yes, please.
Thank you. The Insurance Services Office, formerly known to most of us as ISO, has awarded the Planning and Development Building and Safety Division with a building code effectiveness classification grade of 2. That is for 1 and 2 family residential properties, commercial properties, as well as industrial properties. And in the building industry, that is a big deal. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Mr. Hosey so that he can give a little bit more context about the recognition.
Good afternoon. Hamid was unavailable. He was going to be here. ISO, the Insurance Service Office, rates cities, building and safety functions for effectiveness and efficiency. They do that comprehensively throughout the country, nationally. And the rating that you receive does have an impact on the insurance rates that the homeowners pay on their property as well as commercial rates. The average score in the, it's on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, 1 being the best. In the state of North Carolina, the average rating is a 5 in commercial and a 5 in residential. Nationally, it's closer to 6 in both. In 2009, historically, the city of Raleigh received a level 4 for commercial and a 99 for residential. The 99 means that basically the residential program was not robust enough yet to really evaluate. Thanks to the very hard work of staff, as well as process improvements to raise the bar that we put in place over the last 5 years, we improved that dramatically and recently received the level of 2 for residential, 2 for commercial, which actually puts us in the top 2% of jurisdictions. So I'd like to say thank you to all the building and safety staff, the reviewers, the inspectors, the administrative support staff for all their hard work, because really without the hard work, this wouldn't have happened. So just a big thank you to staff that made it happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations. Next, we have our consent agenda. One item has been pulled by 2 counselors, and that is C4, North Carolina Utilities Commission, Duke Energy Integrated Resource Plan authorization to submit comments. I'm going to pull that, and then I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda. Councilmember Stewart has made that motion, seconded by Councilmember Branch. All in favor? That is unanimous, clerk. I also want to, well, let's get to this and then we'll address Councilmember Cox's absence. So Councilor Buffkin, Councilor Stewart.
I don't know if it's a matter of which order. I'm looking to hold this for 2 weeks so that a few of us on council can have some more conversations with staff. But I'm hoping that we'll be able to quickly bring it back to the February 16th meeting.
Okay, and Councilor Buffkin was going to ask to be excused from voting on this. So we will hold this for 2 weeks, and if we could bring it back as a special item, that would be appreciated. Thank you. Yes, Councilmember Buffkin.
So, Mayor, I think I'd like to have the council vote on my recusal before we delay, just to make clear that I won't be a part of the discussions between now and our next meeting.
Okay, do we have a motion to excuse Councilmember Buffkin? That was made by Councilmember Branch and seconded by Councilmember Fort. I have see the city attorney raising her hand.
Yeah, if you could state on the record the reason for your recusal, I think that would be a good idea to get that down.
Yes, certainly. I'm an employee and an attorney for the North Carolina Utilities Commission, and find participation in this matter would be inconsistent with my employment.
Okay. All right, so that has been stated. We have a motion and second. All in favor? Okay, that was unanimous, clerk. I just wanted to note for the record that Councilmember Cox has been delayed by a work commitment, and he may or may not be in attendance today. So we will excuse him from the meeting until he gets here. All right. Next, we have the report of the Planning Commission. And we're going to do something a little different today. Ken Bowers is going to go through all of the items on the agenda. Then we will take down the report, and then we will discuss each individually. So, Ken, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I think this will work a little more smoothly because of the delay in taking the slides up and down for your deliberation and action. So let's start with March 2nd. This is the only things that are currently scheduled are an annexation and a traffic calming project for public hearing. So we'll get straight to the Planning Commission report. There are 5 items. The first one is a request for time extension, and then there are 4 items recommended for the March 2nd public hearing that have been reported out. 1 zoning case, 1 text change to zoning conditions, and 2 text changes to the UDO. So going through all of these, CP 320 is the comprehensive plan amendments that bring our policies and the comp plan in alignment with the recently adopted equitable development around transit study and report and guidebook. So there's amendments to the framework elements, the land use, urban design, housing, economic development, and some of the area-specific guidance sections. So a very comprehensive amendment. Planning Commission is requesting just a little more time. You're probably used to seeing us request increments of 30, 45, or 60 days, but what they have asked is for an extension to the date of your next meeting. And so they are making a commitment that you will receive their recommendation on this item on February 16th. The next 4 items are the items for the March 2nd public hearing. The first is Z4320. That is a request to zone over 11 acres from the Lakewood PD to R10 conditional use. Planning Commission recommended approval of this case on a split vote. One of the dissenting votes was related to potential environmental impacts given the amount of floodplain on the property and its location on the Walnut Creek. Second one is a text change to zoning conditions, TCZ 220. This is on the Lakes Drive. It's a large apartment development that's undergoing redevelopment located on Sandy Forks Road. Does not change the overall development allocations, but does reallocate them within the planned development district. Planning Commission recommended approval unanimously. TC 1420. A recently authorized text change to allow on-site sales for community garden uses within residential districts, subject to certain use limitations. Planning Commission also reviewed this and recommended approval unanimously. This was the result of a citizen petition. There seems to be a slide missing, but I'll just go to the last item on this list, which was TC 1820, also recommended for March 2nd. This, you may recall, was a text change authorized by City Council after consultation with the City Attorney that would remove the remaining quasi-judicial hearings from City Council and give them to the Board of Adjustment for hearing. So that concludes my presentation.
Okay, so we will start with the comprehensive plan amendment, CP 320. Does anybody have a question on that? I do have a question then. Why are they requesting the extension?
All I can tell you is that the Planning Commission has had extremely busy agendas and they simply need one more meeting to complete their review. They just have not been able to find enough time on their agenda to get through it.
Councilmember Branch?
Based on that information, it seems as if they'll bring it back to us on the 16th, which will still be targeting March 2nd for the public hearing. So is that their premise as well on getting it back to us by the 16th for that meeting?
Yeah, that's correct. You'll still have the opportunity to schedule it for March 2nd public hearing. So the hearing should not be delayed by this time extension.
Okay. Yeah, this needs to move forward, and we have been discussing this for more than a year. It's time. So, all right, as long as it's back to us by February 16th. We need a vote on that. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move for February 16th deadline to the Planning Commission.
Seconded by Councilmember Stewart. All in favor? No opposition. That passes unanimously, Clerk. Okay, the second item, Z4320.
Oh.
Yep. That's not supposed to be up there. Okay, I don't think we need any,
But Z4320 was the Trailwood Drive rezoning case.
yeah, so if we could take down the, thank you. So Z4320 Trailwood Drive, this would be set for March 2nd. Councilor Fort, this is in your district. Would you like to comment?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor. There have been a number of conversations between the developer and the neighbors in the area. There have been some challenges with the proposal with this particular site, especially as relates to density. I've had a number of conversations with the developers as well as some local residents. I think it may be helpful to have some ongoing conversations. And so I would like to suggest to move our public hearing to April to give us time to see if they can get some consensus. And if so, that would give the developer time to submit some additional conditions.
Councilor Fort, can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Could we hold this until our next meeting and then make a determination at that time?
That's fine.
Okay, so is that a motion then, Councilor Fort? We will hold it?
Yes, ma'am. We can hold it open to the next meeting.
Okay, seconded by Councilor Knight. All in favor? Let's see, Councilor Buffkin disappeared on me. Okay, all right, Clerk, that was unanimous. Next, we have the rezoning text change TCZ 220 at the Lakes in District A. Any questions on this? Councilor Buffkin?
Thank you, Mayor. Not a question, but a brief comment and a suggestion that all these changes are internal to the plan development, and I know of no opposition. So I'm going to suggest that we schedule this for February 16th rather than March 2nd.
Okay. That is a motion. Do we have a second? Councilmember Fort has seconded that. All in favor? No opposition, Clerk. That passes unanimously. Then our next one, case is TC 1420 Community Gardens with on-site sales. I'm going to make a motion to move this forward to March 2nd. We've been waiting for a while on this. Council Melton has seconded this. All in favor? Okay, that also passes unanimously, Clerk. And then finally, we have the text change TC 1820 quasi judicial hearings. Do we have any questions on that? No questions. Do I have a motion to approve? Councilmember Stewart, seconded by Councilmember Knight. We will schedule that for March 2nd. All in favor? No opposition, clerk. Okay, next we move on to special items. Thank you, Ken. This is rezoning Z2419 Raleigh Beach Road.
Good afternoon. You closed the public hearing. You held the public hearing and closed it on January 5th for this item.
Yep.
Since that time, the applicant has revised to require a greenway connection and also to prohibit buildings in the 100-year floodplain. Those details are in your packet, and I also could, if the slides come up, I could show you a map of the greenway connection proposed. So here's language about the provision for the greenway and also the prohibition of buildings in the 100-year floodplain and a map of what that greenway connection, so this is shown in purple, how that greenway connection would work. So at this point, the applicant could still revise this case, and I believe they are available by phone to answer questions, or you may choose to take action today. What questions could I answer for you?
Councilmember Branch.
Council Milton can go first.
Council Melton.
Thanks. I remember there was a third concern that was being discussed with this case with regard to transit connectivity, specifically, I think a transit stop or a bus stop. I know we got an email from, I think, one of the attorneys representing the developer indicating that they had coordinated with the city on making sure that there was some connectivity. Can we just reiterate, I guess, for the record, what the plan is for that?
That's exactly right. That was a connection, a concern that was raised. And my understanding is that Go Raleigh is in the process of installing a transit stop at the Aldi that's adjacent to the site. And the applicant has not offered additional transit improvements, recognizing that that stop is coming online immediately adjacent to the site.
Okay.
Councilmember Branch.
Yeah, since we have the applicant, could they speak to their community outreach? I've read the background materials and I noticed that there was a CAC vote. Did they just do one CAC? Two? Sorry about that. Did they just visit one CAC or two CACs? Is the applicant available?
I believe Worth Mills is on the line to represent the case.
No, I
don't know what
I'll call him right now.
Great. I don't know what additional meetings they had outside of what was required, but they did appear. This is a relatively old case. Remember, it was filed in 2019. So they did appear in front of the CAC and receive recommendation there, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, let's see if we can get the applicant.
Everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, great. So to answer Councilman Branch's question.
Can you identify yourself?
Yes, ma'am. This is Worth Mills with Longleaf Law Partners on behalf of the applicant.
Worth.
So to answer Councilman Branch's question, when we were going through the kind of the neighborhood meeting CAC process, the CACs were still in existence. And we went to a total of 3 Northeast CAC meetings from September 12th, 2019 to February 13th, 2020, where we received our vote. And we also went to a Southeast CAC meeting on January 9th of 2020. As we went through Planning Commission, we also had a Zoom meeting with the Edgewater Townhomes HOA, and I've also had a handful of phone calls with Tammy Martin, who is a neighbor of the nearby single-family subdivision. So we've tried throughout to keep neighbors abreast of the changes, and when they have concerns, we've tried our best to come back to these meetings with sufficient updates to the master plan where we are able to make those changes. But I'm happy to answer any other questions that City Council has.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question. Do you mind if I ask that? So could you tell us, you went before 2 CACs? Did I hear you correctly?
So we were within the Northeast CAC boundary, and so we went to that CAC in September and November of 2019, and then we received our vote on February 13th of 2020. We were also fairly close to the Southeast CAC boundary line, so we went and did a courtesy presentation to that group in January of 2020.
What was the vote, the outcome of the vote?
I believe it was 2 in favor, 1 against, 1 opposed. It was the last Southeast CAC meeting, I guess the last official CAC meeting that they had. The other meetings that we went to were more well attended.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Branch.
Yeah, my other question is around your brownfield application. Can you kind of clarify what that application with DEQ allows you to do with this property?
Sorry, was that a question for me?
Yes.
Okay, so the brownfields agreement strictly prohibits the single-family style residential unit. Townhomes, duplexes, and other individually owned units that include land ownership are prohibited unless they are approved in writing by NCDEQ in advance. And the reason for the prohibition on land ownership is because it makes it harder for DEQ to manage the contaminated soil with follow-up testing and follow-up remediation. So by having the land under common ownership, they're better able to perform studies, and it helps to prevent harm to residents who may not be aware of the underlying soil contamination. So the focus of the prohibition is to try to consolidate ownership within, 1 or 2 management structures so that NCDEQ can more easily mitigate in the future.
Okay. So my last question is, if you were to go, I don't know if you know who's going to be doing the building, but if someone wanted to do condominiums or something, those options are available?
Yes, that is still an option. The condominium is an apartment building type under the UDO, but that is the for sale product is still an option, and it's going to be primarily driven by the market as they phase this development and understand what the needs of the community are.
Okay. All right. Madam Mayor, I have no more questions. I'm ready to make a motion on this project.
Okay. Do we have any other questions from council? Okay, seeing none, Councilmember Branch, we'll hear you.
Yes. Based on the options of affordability and ownership is still an option for this project, I move to adopt the proposed consistency statement dated February 2nd, 2021, containing the agenda materials, and to approve the zoning amendment with the adoption effective dates described in the agenda item under recommended action.
Do we have a second? Councilmember Stewart, thank you. All in favor? No opposition on that, clerk? It was unanimous. Okay. Let's see, next we have the report and recommendation of the city manager. Thank you, Bynum. Turn this over to you, Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. We have 3 items under the city manager's report today. The first is the Raleigh Relief Fund for small businesses. You may recall back last spring when COVID happened upon us as a community, council appropriated $1 million for assistance to small businesses. Today, Veronica Creech is here to share with us a little bit of the update of what those funds have been used for and how have made an impact in our small business community.
Mayor, Council, thank you, City Manager. Mayor, Council, good to be with you today. You will see in front of you a year-end review, 1-pager. We're excited about this new piece of collateral. This is the first year we have provided this. I'd like to thank Amanda Driscoll from our team working with the Communications Department to bring this about. We're going to dive down today in the $1.6 million COVID-19 Relief Fund. But before we do that, we wanted to just celebrate, knowing last year was an extremely difficult year, we highlighted a couple of successes from last year, from 66 projects in the pipeline, permits issued, infrastructure funds received. And I want to bring special attention to our 2020 Building Upfit Grant program. Last year, as you could probably predict, we got more grant requests than any year previous. And I wanted to show you the success and the return of your investment in that program. So last year we had 66 new project requests. They represent 121 new jobs. And of the $333,000 granted, that leveraged a $3 million investment. So those numbers equate to, for every dollar invested in the Building Upfit grant, we saw a $9.24 return. So with all the struggles of last year, we still were able to maintain some big successes. But again, one of our biggest success was your authorization in April of last year to establish the COVID-19 Relief Fund, which supported 224 businesses. Next slide. Oh, do I have it? Thank you. Our effort in supporting the COVID Relief Fund, we partnered with 2 local organizations, Friends of the City, Friends of Economic Development, both Wake Tech through their Raleigh Fund and Carolina Small Business Development Fund. Wake Tech already had a program set up through their Raleigh Fund that was aimed at supporting small businesses, and particularly minority-owned businesses and micro enterprises. So your solopreneurs, your 1- and 2-person operations that did not qualify for funding that was available at the time. So the city's $60,000 joined the fund of Wake Tech and Wells Fargo to create a fund of $160,000 with 158 total applications, 69 total awards. 23 Raleigh businesses benefited from that investment. You will see the eligibility criteria very much in line with what Council guided us with the relief program. And as of today, we learned from our partner, Katie Gales, who manages the Raleigh Fund, that 100% of the 23 funded businesses are still operational. What we did see are some trends in 2020. I think the word pivot was used more. It was one of the highest used words last year, and no different here. Trend in how the money was spent, folks moving their businesses to website redesign, office rent, and inventory pivots. A couple of success stories. One mental health counselor was able to use the funds to move her business to telehealth services, which she's still doing today and is going to be an ongoing part of her business model. And then a high-end tailor was able to improve his inventory, including ready-to-wear, which allowed him to reach an additional clientele. I'm going to ask and invite Kevin Dick, CEO of Carolina Small Business Development Fund, to come and address you and share the end-of-program report related to our partnership in this initiative. Kevin.
Thank you so much, Veronica. And thank you. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, City Council members, and City staff. As Veronica said, I am Kevin Dick, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Carolina Small Business Development Fund. And we are thrilled, and I can't emphasize that enough, thrilled to have had the opportunity to work with the City of Raleigh and specifically the Department of Economic Development and Innovation on this Raleigh Small Business COVID-19 Relief Fund. It's been an extreme pleasure to work with Veronica and her team, and we've also really appreciated the support of Madam Mayor, particularly with your engagement of the private sector, as well as Assistant City Manager Green for your support. Here's the major takeaway that we'd like you to leave this meeting with. This Raleigh Small Business COVID-19 Relief Fund allowed EDI, working in conjunction with Carolina Small Business Development Fund, to get much needed grant assistance to 201 businesses, deploying over $1.4 million, and really doing that across industries, again, to businesses most in need. And so I'd like to tell you just a little bit about who CSBDF is. We consider ourselves dream catchers. We've been working with small businesses and entrepreneurs ostensibly since 2010, although our organization is 31 years old. We started helping minority deposit institutions and community credit unions, and then we pivoted, to use Veronica's term, in 2010 to an organization with an emphasis on providing equitable capital access, holistic business advising, and policy research and advocacy. And I'm proud to say that we closed our 1,043rd loan in 2020, and over 270 of those loans were made during the year 2020. So we were very busy or have been busy during COVID. So just some program details about the Small Business Recovery Fund. As Veronica mentioned, $855,000 in support. That was a subset of the overall million that was allocated. We had a significant private sector match component. Again, Madam Mayor, your leadership in that realm was particularly impressive and necessary. And over $600,000 was raised to augment the $855,000. We really wanted to make this program be beneficial for businesses that were in the most need across industries, but also providing them the very specific amount that they needed. And that's why that third bullet point is so important. We capped the program at $10,000 or 2 months rent or mortgage, whichever was less. So again, making sure that we protected taxpayer dollars by making sure that businesses most in need with their specific needs being met at that level was an emphasis. We focused on locally owned storefront or Main Street type businesses. And I do want to mention that that term storefront is somewhat generic in its application to this program. What we really wanted to be intentional about was that these would be, externally facing, customer facing businesses where possible, not home-based businesses. Also, we designed this program to provide bridge funding until COVID-19 or other funds were received. So as you all are aware, agencies like the Small Business Administration released programs like the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, as well as economic injury disaster loans, or EIDL programs. And those took a while to kick in. So when this program was approved by City Council last April, those programs were still very much in their fledgling stages, and businesses needed immediate relief. And so we galvanized and mobilized quickly with staff to put together a program. That program provided the opportunity for 584 total applications. As I mentioned earlier, there were 201 funded, so 383 were unfunded. And that last bullet point is also key, and it relates to an earlier point I mentioned. That unmet demand is a range because we asked folks to submit their tax returns that revealed what their monthly expenses would be. So we didn't ask them to submit a specific dollar amount. We capped the program at $10,000, but we asked them to submit documents that would enable us to tell what their monthly expenses were. And then for those who were able to fund, we funded that amount specifically. We did not retain what monthly expenses were for unfunded applicants. So we're estimating that 2.6 to 3.8 million based upon the average grant that was funded up to the max amount if all 383 had fundable projects at 10,000. So I hope that makes sense, and I'm here to take questions later. More program requirements. We wanted businesses that were located within the Raleigh city limits, businesses that had 49 employees or less, locally and independently owned businesses. And again, I mentioned the term storefronts. We also wanted businesses that documented at least a 25% loss in revenue due to COVID-19. So they were required to document that revenue loss. Annual revenue of less than 2.5 million. Again, a strong emphasis on small businesses. Businesses with no bankruptcies, tax liens, and/or open judgments. And so in terms of the program results, you can see in the top left corner of the screen an average grant award of just under $7,000. As I said earlier, 201 total grantees and over 1.4 million in funds awarded. And then you can see the firm ownership characteristics within the table. 43% women owned, 25% minority owned or businesses owned by people of color, as well as 36% low and moderate income individuals who owned businesses. And then further, as we mentioned, a very significant private component of this program. We had overall 38 corporate donations, 18 individual donations for a total of 56 donors, and as I said earlier, a total of 584 applicants. Here are the sectors by total grantee count. So we have here the top 5 that are represented. And you can see that food services and drinking places, the types of Main Street storefront businesses were highly represented. We also had personal and laundry services, personal care type businesses like barbershops, beauty salons, and things of that nature, as well as laundry services. Professional, scientific, and technical services. So that could have been, a variety of businesses, small IT firms, other types of businesses in kind of the STEM fields, but again, were storefront. Ambulatory healthcare services, we thought these were very important because during COVID-19, obviously you want small businesses who can attend to health needs of the citizenry to be up and running. And then finally, miscellaneous store retailers. In terms of sectors by award amount, again, those top 5, and you can see the various award amounts. Really, the only exception was that amusement and recreation industries creeped into the top 5 in terms of that award amount. We did have a number of client testimonies and got national coverage about this program. And so if I may, I would like to read one testimonial. This is from Headquarters Barbershop located at 5720 Capitol Boulevard, Suite E. The owner of that shop is Jimmy Evans. And Jimmy sent this testimony to us. My shop had lost revenue due to COVID-19, and that made it hard for us to pay all of our bills for a few months. I heard that the Raleigh City Council wanted to help small businesses that had been hit hard by COVID-19, and I was directed to the Carolina Small Business Development Fund to apply for a grant. Once I submitted my complete application, I had funding back within 6 days that I don't have to pay back. I would recommend Carolina Small Business to any small business in need of funding or coaching, and I would definitely use them again. I thank the Raleigh City Council for providing funding for this program. And I mentioned national press coverage. This business was featured in Black Enterprise magazine. Another client testimony, this came from Steve Tara and the Watered Garden team. They're located at 955 Trinity Road. Wow, we are so thrilled to have been awarded this grant. Thank you for all that you are doing to assist small businesses during this time. So obviously I've related a lot of numbers and statistics, but really when it gets down to it, hearing from small businesses, hearing their level of appreciation for what the city made possible and provided the opportunity for Carolina Small Business Development Fund to partner on was really very gratifying. And I'd be remiss before I take questions also if I didn't thank our staff. I have our Vice President of Business Solutions, Lori Diaz, is in the crowd today. She and many others on our team worked extremely hard to bring this program to fruition and generate the results that I've reported upon. And I'm happy to take questions at this time.
Kevin, I just want to say on behalf of all of us, we couldn't have had a better partner than you, your team, and the Carolina Small Business Development Fund. You did exceptional work under a great deal of pressure. I also want to acknowledge and thank Adrian Cole with the Raleigh Chamber of Commerce and Jim Hansen from PNC Bank, who served as co-chairs on the fundraising effort. We raised just over $600,000 from the private sector, and that was instrumental in helping this program be a success. So I know there's still a lot more to do, but I just want to thank you for what you all did, and you turned around things very quickly. This is actually what we were looking for. Businesses across the board in various zip codes being assisted, as well as minority businesses. So I think you did a great job. Thank you. And do we have any questions for Kevin? Councilmember Branch.
Yeah, I just want to say, Kevin, thank you for your work and everything that you all did and your attention to detail in giving the presentation, because I think it clearly shows a picture of the service and also the continued need that we pray that we can get from other government agencies so that we can continue to help our small businesses. Also, just one question is not for Kevin, is for Veronica. Can we get the demographics from Wake Tech? I got zip codes, but just because you're in the zip code doesn't necessarily give the true demographics of that business. So if we can get that in a manager's update, that'd be appreciated.
Yeah, we got it.
I saw Councilmember Buffkin with his hand raised. We might want Kevin to come back up.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Kevin, for being with us. I join in the sentiments that have been expressed about the tremendous work you all have done under difficult circumstances. I was looking at the industry chart and I was wondering where travel-related businesses fall. I have been contacted by a number of travel agency type businesses in my district, and of course, they've been hit really hard. Business, virtually shut down. So, do we have any travel businesses among the awardees, and how were they? Where do they fall in the industry sector?
Councilmember Bluffkin, thank you for that question. We can get some more specifics back to Veronica and perhaps give a specific breakdown of travel-oriented businesses. I believe that they may be, so they generally on charts like you saw, they'd fall in leisure and hospitality. And so we will research our records and get that information to Veronica.
Great, thank you very much.
Sure.
Any additional questions or comments? Councilmember Knight?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I just also want to echo what you and Councilor Buffkin and Branch have said, as well as I think the rest of us feel, is thank you for Kevin for all your work and your organization's work with the city of Raleigh and with the applicants. And also, I would also want to include in there Adrian Cole and Jim Hansen and their teams and partnering with you also. I think it was a great effort, and it showed what we could do quickly and at a local level, community level, respond to the needs of our citizens and small businesses. So thank you again for that. Look forward to continuing to work with you all as these needs continue and to take care of these services that are needed out there. So thanks a lot, and look forward to continuing our relationship together.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Kevin, thank you so much. And again, thank you to your team. Great job.
Madam Mayor, if I could, and I appreciate it again, and I'd be remiss if I also didn't thank Adrian and also Rick Kiernan from Convergent Solutions.
That's right.
Partner. And I do want to also acknowledge our Vice President of Policy and Research, Jamie McCall, because he put together a lot of these data, and it would not have been possible without him. So thanks again for the partnership.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if you can see it, but you're getting applause. Excellent report. Thank you. Next, Marshall.
Yes. The second item is the fiscal year 20 Comprehensive Plan Annual Progress Report. And Ira Mabel from Planning and Development Services will present this item.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Ira Mabel from Planning and Development. Here to talk about the FY20 Comprehensive Plan Progress Report. So this is a publication from the Planning and Development Department that we do annually because the comprehensive plan tells us to, in short. So there's some language that you can see on your screen from the implementation chapter that describes the report that we publish every year and update annually to the plan to keep it relevant. So in the past, we used to do this on the calendar year, but have recently shifted to fiscal year to match all the other reporting that you see. We're also from the budget and strategic plan and other things. And typically, these reports contain three major sections. The first is a summary of the actions you've taken over the past year, legislative actions related to the comp plan, so specifically rezonings, text changes, and amendments to the plan. The second is a section we call emerging issues. That's a mix of just presenting new state law or other internal procedures that have changed over the past year, and also talking about broader planning issues from the country or the world that we think could be relevant and may need to be reflected in the plan at some point. And the third piece is an omnibus amendment to the comprehensive plan. This is a time for updating progress and also some housekeeping. So not really a substantive change to what the plan says we're going to do, but again, just keeping it up to date and relevant. So this third piece has not been part of our progress report for a number of years, and that was because of the comprehensive plan update. So we undertook a pretty significant update to the plan starting around 2014 and ending in the fall of 2019 when you all adopted it. And so during that time, because we were already reviewing not only all the actions in the plan, but the policies and text and maps, we weren't also doing this extra annual omnibus amendment. But since this update was adopted at the end of 2019, as I mentioned, we've now put back into practice the omnibus amendment to keep everything up to date. So I'll cut to the chase a little early. Staff is requesting two things from you today. The first is to authorize that omnibus amendment, so CP 520. So that is not approval, to be clear. That is giving staff the authorization to move that through the review process defined by the UDO, which starts with Planning Commission review and ends with public hearing and final action by you at some point in the future. And the second thing we're asking is to refer the rest of the report also to Planning Commission for their review and recommendation. There are a couple of issues in the emerging issues section this year that we think could or should warrant their own comprehensive plan amendment. So we think further vetting and discussion by Planning Commission would be useful information for you in the future to authorize those amendments. And of course, the standard menu of options for you that you have for most content is available if you want to refer either the progress report or any piece of it, or the omnibus amendment to committee, or ask for more information, or if you're comfortable to go ahead and authorize some of those comp plan amendments that I was talking about. I have about 5 or so more slides that are summarizing the actual content of both of those, the amendment and the report. But I think I'd like to pause now, and I'd be happy to go through that if you wish. But if I could pause now just to check to see what your pleasure was. If you wanted me for more information.
Do we need any additional information? All right, so that was for the first section. Did you want to talk to about the progress report, or are we all good?
Madam Mayor.
Council members, please pay attention. I know these virtual meetings are hard, but we get through this quicker if everybody's on. Council Member Branch.
Yeah, I've looked at the background material, but I think it would be good to actually present it. I mean, the slides don't seem that long.
Sure. I'd be happy to do that. So there are 4 particular emerging issues of the 7 in the plan that we think could be their own comprehensive plan amendment. The first is about the area-specific guidance. So part of when we adopt a new area plan, so the most recent one you've approved was for Midtown, part of that involves adding a new brief section to the comprehensive plan that summarizes that with some policies and actions specifically for that plan. So this version of the comp plan was adopted in 2009 and contains area plans from the previous comp plan from 1989. So staff is considering perhaps changing how we evaluate area-specific policies that have been in the plan for a long time. So setting some timeline for review, re-review for some of those plans, which now, some have been in 10, 15 years in the comprehensive plan, and the actual areas have changed, and our citywide planning has changed. The second bullet is there are a couple of future land use map categories that have proven to be somewhat problematic over time as we've been using the plan. So the progress report talks about potentially eliminating some of them or amending them, their description, we think, to fix some issues. The fourth bullet, so the update I talked about, the 5-year update, came with it a new policy to replace that version of updating the plan with instead a more focused issue-specific update that we do every 1 or 2 years. So rather than like last time going through the entire book and bringing that to the community and asking for their feedback, really identifying what is most pressing. So we're right now heading towards a racial equity version of updating the plan, so like an audit, we've been calling it internally. That would be a pretty big project with a lot of community involvement. So as far as comprehensive plan amendments go. And then the fourth bullet is, you all in the past year have been approving or authorizing a lot of text changes about housing and missing middle housing in the UDO. And there haven't really been the corresponding changes to the policy language in the comp plan. So over time, those two things have been starting to drift. And you will shortly, in the next couple months, be seeing a text change for missing middle. So we are anticipating that that need to even be getting stronger to make sure that the actual regulations for what people can build and the policy for what people should build where actually match. As far as the amendment, the omnibus amendment, like I mentioned, this is mostly documentation, not really substantive changes. We recently to do this work, it has been a couple years. We switched to an online software from the old school method of emailing spreadsheets back and forth. That has resulted in a lot of benefits we hope you'll see in the future for this report. One of the downsides was that setting this up was a lot of manual labor, so that's the reason we're here in February rather than October as originally planned. But we got a lot of great feedback from departments for this section, in part because of that shift. So I would like to thank all the departments who helped put this report, put the information together. But the omnibus amendment does reflect a lot of great work that the city departments, or that staff do across city departments. So the rather boring staff report that's sort of just a list of action items is really built on top of, approving the Dix Park master plan, getting the bike share system started, the bioenergy recovery project at the Neuse River Resource Recovery Facility is well underway. So this is a time to acknowledge all of the great work that staff has been doing and checking these things off as complete in the plan. Other changes in the omnibus amendment. So, I am now in the Planning and Development Department, which is just a year old, so a merger between Department of City Planning and Development Services. So those acronyms still exist in the plan. So those type of cleanup is something we try and do in the omnibus amendment. In addition, there are some policies that are no longer relevant for one reason, or actions, I should say, that are no longer relevant for one reason or another. Sometimes a policy, the department in charge will have updated language or a new best practice, and so they change the content. And then sometimes we think about changing an action which should have an end date to a policy, so more of an ongoing process that the city undertakes all the time. So I'd be happy. I have, if there were any specific changes that the amendment is proposing. But again, the request today is to authorize this amendment and also refer the report to Planning Commission.
Do we have any additional questions? Councilor Buffkin?
Thank you, Mayor. So with respect to the omnibus amendment, am I correct in understanding most of these changes are ministerial, cleaning up names, cross-references, deleting obsolete policies, incorporating things that have become policy? Is that roughly right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is the majority. There are a couple of actions that we're proposing to remove that other circumstances have rendered sort of moot. So, for example, there was a policy directing the IT department to work with Wake County Public Schools to get more virtual learning. So IT thinks that ship has sort of sailed already and that the Wake County Public Schools is doing that, whether they like it or not. So not really an action they plan on undertaking in the future. So sometimes that does happen where an action just becomes less relevant for some other reason. But yes, for the most part, they're either things we're saying that we completed or minor tweaks because, the project has changed over time, or we do things a little bit differently now, or some other planning document that department has worked on, has refreshed, and the comp plan is now catching up to that.
Great, thank you. That's very helpful. In light of that, Mayor, I'd be prepared to make a motion that we authorize the omnibus amendment as outlined by staff today.
And also refer refer the annual progress report to the Planning Commission.
Well, I was going to suggest we handle them separately, but yes, I'd also be inclined to authorize the comprehensive plan or text amendment on the emerging issues in the progress report, but however you want to handle the voting is fine with me.
Councilmember Branch, you second that? All right, so that is a motion to approve the associated omnibus comprehensive plan amendment and also refer the annual progress report to the Planning Commission. Would you entertain a friendly amendment on that?
Certainly.
I would like to ask that the Planning Commission report back to us within 60 days.
So moved.
Okay, we have that and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, clerk, that is unanimous. Thank you so much.
And the final item under the manager's report today is the New Bern Station Area Planning Update. And Jason Harden from Planning and Development Services will provide that presentation.
I'm ready to move forward with approval of this contract if the rest of the council is. We've had numerous hours that we've spent on this. Nothing against you, John, but if the rest of the council is ready to move forward to approve this contract, I will make that motion. Seconded by Councilor Branch. All in favor? Any opposed? No. That is the shortest presentation I bet you've ever given, right? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason, and Mayor and Council. That's all under the manager's report today.
Okay. Next, we have the report and recommendation of the Historic Resources and Museum Advisory Board. Troy Burton and Claire Bass are here.
Sorry, I don't present nearly as well as Claire does. She was unable to be here today with a health complication, non-COVID related, but in any event, so I'm here
to hear.
But you have the report and recommendation in front of you, and I'm here to entertain any questions you might have.
Does anybody have any questions related to this? Seeing everybody shaking their head, do I have a motion to approve the annual work plan? That was a motion by Councilor Buffkin, seconded by Councilor Stewart. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Clerk, that was unanimous.
Huzzah, thank you.
Thank you, Troy. Next, we have the report and recommendations of committees. First is Economic Development and Innovation Committee.
Got one item to report today. The committee recommends that the council endorse staff's recommendations for implementing steps necessary to improve Raleigh's Municipal Equality Index MEI score. I will add on top of that there is more work that I think needs to be done. The scores will be looked at again towards the end of this year, so we have some time, I think, to add some maybe additional areas where we may be lacking points, but I think the presentation we received in committee and the initial recommended steps are a great first start. So, with that, I would move to approve.
I will second that. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, that's unanimous, Clerk. Councilor Melton, good job with that in committee. And Dr. Caesar, I think, did really good job with her presentation, so thank you. Next, we have...
I'm sorry. I was going to announce our meeting for February. We will have a virtual meeting at 1:30 on Tuesday, February 23rd, and we still have the issue of, it's a really long name, short name's Corner Stores. That's still pending in committee, so we'll resuming that on the 23rd.
Councilor Melton, I am not going to be able to be in attendance at that meeting. Would you consider moving that to March? It would also give staff time to work on a number of issues that we asked them to bring forward to us.
Yeah, that's fine. So scratch that. No February meeting then. That gives them a little bit more time. We still got the long titled Corner Stores issue pending. Thank you.
And that was an interesting discussion as well. Next, we have Councilor Stewart and the Growth and Natural Resources Committee.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We are reporting that item out with no action taken. And then our next meeting will be on February 23rd, virtual. We're going to be discussing sanitary sewer overflows, my favorite topic. So that is all.
Okay, so is that a motion to remove the item from the agenda with no action taken? Do we have a second? Seconded by Councilor Knight. All in favor? Clerk, that was unanimous. Thank you. And sanitary sewer overflows. You got it.
Keep grease out of the sewers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next we have the report and recommendation of the Safe, Vibrant, and Healthy Communities Committee. First off, we looked at the panhandling and pedestrian interference ordinance. Our committee recommends removing this item from the agenda with no action taken. So moved. Do I have a second? Councilor Buffkin has seconded. All in favor? Clerk, that was unanimous. The next item is food truck zones operating hours. We asked that the staff authorize a draft ordinance to allow for food trucks in this space to operate from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. One thing I wanted to ensure is that the ordinance makes it very clear that the truck cannot park there 24/7. It can only be parked there during those operating hours. Can we have some assurances on that is the case? Or can I just incorporate that as part of the motion? All right, so it would be, we would be extending the hours of operation for a food truck space located at North Street from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. to 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And I'm going to add language to that, but ensuring that the vehicle can only be parked there during those hours of operation, not to exceed it. Councilmember Fort, do you have anything to add to that?
Not at this time, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. So that is the motion. Do I have a second? Councilmember Fort has seconded. All in favor? That was unanimous, clerk. I also want to make sure that what I would like to do is have staff look at our food truck ordinance. We heard during this meeting that several of these spaces are not being utilized, and only one vendor has actually had an application to use any of them. That tells me the program isn't working, or isn't working the way it's meant to be working. So I would like to ask staff to continue to look at that and perhaps come back to us with a report on our food truck program. I think we can do that in the city manager's report, but we may have to bring it back to committee for action as well. Okay. And then I just wanted to, before we get to the Transportation Transit Committee, I wanted to just update everybody on one of our discussions regarding homelessness. This was a lengthy discussion. We had representatives from the county there, as well as the Partnership to End and Prevent Homelessness. There's three things that really stood out to me. Number one, our white flag efforts, which is, providing our homeless community a safe place to be when it is either too cold or too hot out, needs work and needs focus and needs leadership. The other item where there's a huge gap is housing for families. If you are a co-ed family, meaning intact mom, dad, kids, or if you have a male son, 18 or over, it's hard to house you under the current rules. In fact, it's impossible. You can't be at a shelter. No, this is broken and this needs to be fixed as well. Another issue that I've heard from members in the community is we don't have any shelters that take animals. I remember when we're in San Diego, in Los Angeles, they said this was a huge problem. A lot of people who are homeless have pets for companionship and even for protection. It makes them feel more secure. You know, it's bad enough if you lose your home, or do you also have to lose your family pet? So this is an area that we really need to look at and how we can work with the county. And the third item is hotel to housing. We heard very clearly that there's a program that the county ran this year using CARES Act funding. It was not inexpensive, but man, it was effective. Of the 222 families, people who are housed under this act, almost all of them were rehoused. And as I said, it was expensive, but it's the right thing to do, first off. Second, if you are spending money to rehouse people, you're not spending money on police services, you're not spending money on emergency room services, and you're not spending money on prisons. And so you end up saving money even though you're spending money. Those are 3 areas I would really like our staff to focus on. And when we bring this back to committee, those are the 3 areas I want us to focus on with the county. We are not going to solve this problem alone. The county is not going to solve this problem alone. We need to be working together. And I think now that we have some resources with the bond that we didn't have before, now's the time to have these discussions and start taking action. So I just want to update everybody on the discussion we had. And those are the 3 areas I've kind of outlined for continued focus. Councilmember Buffkin.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of council, as you can see, we've had a robust and energetic discussion of these issues and actually got cut short a little bit at our meeting. And I agree with everything the mayor just said about the urgency of this problem and the work that we need to get started on. After the meeting, I was doing some more thinking about this and a little research and found that I believe that the last time we did a robust planning effort around prevention and ending homelessness was 2005. And so when we get back to committee, I'm going to suggest that we take a look as part of a longer term effort. Most of what the mayor was talking about was more shorter or medium term. But as a longer term effort, I think it might be beneficial for us to consider a new 10-year plan to end homelessness. Back in 2005, to be brief about it, back in 2005, there was a lot of federal money around this planning. There may or may not be opportunities for that now, but I think the planning effort would be beneficial in any event. So we may take a look at that in committee in addition to those items the mayor just mentioned.
Well, we would also ask Kim Crawford from the partnership to come back as well as Lorena from Wake County. So I think that's, as Councilor Buffkin said, we did get cut short because we had to get to the next meeting, which they were gearing up for at 1:30. I think we could have talked about things for another half an hour, but it was a good discussion, and I'm optimistic that we can make some real impacts. So with that said, next we have the report and recommendation of the Transportation Transit Committee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the committee discussed 2 items, received a presentation on 2. The first one was around our bus zones and motorcycle space removals. This was a consent item that was moved to the committee after reviewing this matter and seeing the comprehensive plan that staff is taking and going forward. The committee, and my motion is to recommend that council authorize changes to the traffic study to convert several bus zones to on-street parking and convert a section of motorcycle parking back to standard dimensions parallel parking on Glenwood South area.
Do we have a second? That was seconded by Councilmember Stewart. All in favor? That was unanimous, clerk. Thank you.
The second item we had was actually just information. It was an update on the Bus Rapid Transit update. It's listed as pending here, but all we did was receive an update on where staff is. The equity development areas transportation plan study that is with our planning commission is key to us moving forward with our Bus Rapid Transit plan. But at this time, I just want to remove it from pending and just report it out as information.
Okay, that was seconded by Councilor Stewart. All in favor? Okay, clerk, that was unanimous.
So at this time, our Transit and Transportation Committee has been efficient and has no items pending, and we will not meet in the month of February.
Unless we add something on there during council and mayor's reports.
We'll see.
We'll try to honor that, Council Member Branch. We have made you work hard this year, your committee. So with that said, next we do have the report from Mayor and City Council. I'm going to ask everybody if they're okay with taking a brief break. You okay? All right, let's be back in 5 minutes. the report from the mayor and city council. Councilor Branch, we'll start with you.
All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I only had one item that I wanted to mention today, and it's basically to uplift Levante and Jordan Adams and the work they've done in the community around COVID testing. I want to thank these young men for just, regardless of their own situation, continue to give back and uplift. And I want to recognize them and uplift them. And also thank those that have become their village to support and give them the resources and their family the resources they need to move forward in 2021. That is the only item I have at this time.
And Councilmember Branch, they're moving today?
Yes, at 3 p.m. Their family will be moving into a home today.
So we have a letter from all of us offering congratulations and best wishes, and that is going to be delivered to them as they move in. So thank you for mentioning that and bringing that up.
No problem. Thank you.
Good Morning America, if you haven't seen it. Yeah, pretty emotional. Next, we have Councilor Buffkin.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of council, I have two items today. Last week, I joined the Midtown Raleigh Alliance for a business talk. I was the second in what's planned to be several chats with that partner organization. And the question was raised about the increasing amount of litter. And I've received a number of emails about that, and I know you all have too. Our local paper got some attention on the issue this week, but I wanted to ask that the manager provide us an update on our efforts around litter in the manager's report, and maybe a little context on why the problem seems to be increasing.
Councilmember Branch.
Yes, thank you. I've actually, because I've received a number of calls as well around litter and have spoken to the director for the DOT for our area. I think there's some funding, as the article stated, some things around funding that they're looking to work around. But with COVID and the lack of, from my understanding, because of COVID and for that period of time when people were not driving, they received their funding through the gas tax. And so they pulled funding from litter pickup to cover other areas. But I'll definitely let staff give us a more thorough report. But I wanted to provide that information since I had it to the rest of council and to the community, that they are getting a lot of calls from us and people in the community about the trash and litter pickup. But also this is a chance for our community to step up in opportunities to help as well. But we really need to get the state back on board.
There's also, just beautification efforts and educational efforts, and those have been waning. And so maybe it's time to really, for our state to look at that as, it's important. Litter, people shouldn't be littering, but nobody is delivering that message. Councilmember Knight.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To the councilors' points that just spoke, if you don't mind, I was going to talk about this as well. So, I was just going to add on, or I can wait till my turn. But I was just going to talk about this issue. I just had a couple other points I wanted us to think about.
Why don't you do that now? Okay,
thank you, ma'am. If y'all said, I'm glad that the News Observer did do a piece on this, and I think we've all got an uptake, and what's on the constituents' minds with this issue, because we're all hearing about it. And I'm appreciating DOT speaking out, that taking playing a part in this and responsibility in this, because a lot of these places are under their responsibility, the highways, 440, et cetera, these major thoroughfares. But I think, as to the councilor's points, I don't think we have a volunteer voluntary or volunteer type of program that maybe, you know, with obviously with, you know, this is being caused a lot by the tight budgets that everybody is having these days, that I know we have Adopt a Stream within the city, but maybe there's something to look at like they do at DOT at the state level of, you know, adopt a road or a street or something like that. So I appreciate this as well for the manager to look into this. And I'll leave you with this one point that I have used to remind folks that cigarette butts are litter, and people should not be throwing it out. And that's what we see a lot at our intersections. But there is a phone number that you can call, the NCDOT Litter Management, at 1-800-331-5864. Use this, and there needs to be an enforcement aspect to this as well, which would, I think, help in this. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Buffkin, you said you had 2 items.
Yes, just a brief announcement, and thank you for those comments, each of you. My other announcement is I will have a District A meeting on February the 11th at 6 p.m. It'll be a virtual meeting, and the topic of discussion will be the North Hills Innovation District. We'll have representatives from the project owner available to explain their newly announced vision for the North Hills Innovation District, including a 2-story food hall. And we'll have some discussion and provide an opportunity for folks that live in the area to get their questions answered and interact with the project representatives. So that would be February 11th, District A meeting at 6 p.m. And I'll be sending out access information as the date gets closer.
Yeah, if you could inform all of us, that would be terrific. Thank you. Next, we have Councilor Melton.
Thanks. It's a transit question, but I'm not going to send it to committee. So there's that. I just have a question, I guess, for the city manager. I know some time ago, the city changed its bus shelter policy, whereby I believe any stop with an average of 10 riders will be receiving an improvement, like a shelter and bench and everything. And I was just wondering if we can get an update on the progress we've made on building those out and sort of what the next, I guess, implementation looks like.
Absolutely, Councilmember Melton. In fact, that will be an item on the February 16th City Council agenda.
Perfect timing.
Great, thanks.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yes, I only have one thing, and I'm really excited about it, which is I got to talk to Sir Walter Wally this afternoon, and I brought show and tell. So Mayor Nancy taught me Groundhog Ease. So last year when we could all be together still, I was able to actually talk to Wally, as Councilmember Branch has gotten to do before in the past as well. But this year with virtual meetings, it made it a little more challenging. And so I actually had a Groundhog Ease helmet made, and I got to wear it and talk to Wally. I think it's starting to, no, it's not falling apart. You just can't see it yet. Anyways, I got to talk to Wally, and he told me, a funny joke.
I want to see that again. I have to get a picture of this.
I'm going to back it up so you can there's also pictures on the Science Museum's YouTube page. He told me a great joke. He did say, his thoughts about wishing every day was Groundhog Day did not, that's not, his intent was not for it to actually feel like Groundhog Day every day for the past year. But great news is he didn't see his shadow where he is. There's actually 9 inches of snow on the ground. So we're due for an early spring. And my favorite fact about Wally is that he is 2 times more accurate than that other groundhog, Puxatawny Phil. So early spring, y'all. And I have this amazing helmet that the museum has asked to display. That is all. I will take questions later. That's all.
How do we beat that?
Well, I have a question. Where can I get a hat like that?
You have to beg a certain council member's husband to make you one. They have a good man, y'all.
That was awesome. Okay, thank you. Thank you for shaming all of us, Counselor Stewart, and it was really good. Do you really want to follow that, Counselor Fort?
Sure, I have no report, so that makes it very easy.
Councilmember Knight, did you have anything else besides the litter?
Not after that, no, ma'am.
No. Okay, well, I hate to follow this, but I do have 3 items, all of which are very important. First, I'm issuing a proclamation for Black History Month, and if you'll bear with me, I would like to read this. Whereas Black History Month is an opportunity to share the many historical and present contributions of African Americans to our city, state, and country. And whereas African Americans have played significant roles in the leadership of Raleigh's economic, cultural, spiritual, social, educational, and political development. And whereas the city of Raleigh celebrates Black History Month, recognizing the impact of the city's African American community in helping to establish Raleigh as one of the best places to live, learn, work, and play in the country. And whereas Black History Month is a time for all Americans to remember the rich history of a people who helped to build this country through neighborhood leadership and involvement, advance the cause of civil rights, and strengthen families and communities. And whereas during Black History Month, all Americans are encouraged to reflect on the past successes and challenges of African Americans and look to the future to build upon this heritage and continue to improve society so that we live up to the ideals of freedom, equality, and justice. Now, therefore, do I, Mary Ann Baldwin, Mayor of the City of Raleigh, do hereby proclaim February 2021 as Black History Month. Thank you. And I would ask our communications team to please share this in recognition of this important month. Related to this, Councilor Fort and I, actually you do have a report, Councilor Fort. We have discussed this. Last Friday, we saw the former Cameron Park announce a name change to the Village District. They did this having worked with the team at Oberlin, Sabrina Good in particular, who really raised awareness of the Cameron family name and some of the not so good things associated with that in terms of slave ownership, whatnot. Regency Center came forward and said, this is not something we knew about, but this is something we want to do something about. And they brought forward a new brand, a name change that I think really took courage and leadership. And I want to commend them for that. But as part of that, we also have streets located in there, Cameron Street being one. Councilor Fort and I would like for staff to look at this and come back to us with some recommendations on a street name change. Aside from Cameron Street, if there's any additional ones, we would like for them to look at that, come back to us at a future date with some suggestions on how we too may honor not slave owners, but people who have been impacted by that, and people from Oberlin especially, who have helped build that village. So yeah, if staff could come back to us, that would be great. The other thing I have is related. We had a meeting with the George Floyd Foundation Center last week as well. They're interested in opening their operations in Raleigh. We will be looking at this and offering them some considerations, how that might occur and how we might be able to help them. They are a 501c3. They have a distinguished board of directors. They're adding to that. But they, with George Floyd having been raised in North Carolina, they want to make Raleigh their home. So I will be working with the city manager and her team on some possible options for consideration to move that forward. So we will keep you informed on that. And the fourth item involves PNC study group. As you know, we approved a lease with the Carolina Hurricanes, and that lease agreement states that we will form a study group to look at the future of PNC Arena. I have discussed this with the Raleigh Chamber of Commerce. They are ready to lead this effort along with the Convention and Visitors Bureau. And today I'm asking for the county, the chamber and the CVB to come together with us to look at how we move this forward. But specifically with the chamber taking a leadership role. So city manager, I just add another task to your plate. But I think that this is really important. And one thing I think is important for us to remember, there's a lot going on today. COVID, racial equity, the issues that we need to face. But we also have to look at the future of our city and what we look like 5 years from now and 10 years from now. This is part of that effort. There's going to be a lot of changes coming, especially around the PNC Arena area. And this committee needs to look at, is that the right place to continue to support? Should we put money into renovations? What should we do 5 years from now, 10 years from now? How do we make sure the Hurricanes have a home they can be proud of? And also, or is there other options? And so that's what this group will be looking at. I know the ownership of the team is very anxious for this to get underway. They want assurances that we're serious about this in our future, in their future. So today, I'm making that request for my colleagues on the Wake County Commission to show the same dedication and leadership that we are trying to show today. So that is the end of my report, and I thank you for indulging me. Next, we have appointments. Clerk?
Yes, the first item is the Arts Commission. You have one vacancy and there was one nomination. Mr. Branch nominated Tony Gadsden. So that will be on the next agenda or next ballot.
Can I just ask a question? Is that Tony T-O-N-I or Tony T-O-N-Y?
T-O-N-I.
Okay. A diverse candidate, female. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All righty. The next item is the Raleigh Convention and Performing Arts Centers Authority. You have one vacancy. Mayor Baldwin has nominated Sandra DeBose. So that will be on the next agenda. The next item is the Raleigh Transit Authority. You have one vacancy. Councilman Burfort nominated Jennifer Truman. And there was a second nomination, but I'd like to hold that question in the eligibility. Actually, Councilmember Cox had sent in Sarita McCullers. First of all, he's not present at the meeting, so the question as to whether he can submit a ballot, but my question is, great lady, she just went off of the commission in March of last year, and I believe there is a requirement that one has to be off 2 years before being, going back on the same committee. So I need to do a little check-in on that before we go forward. If she's eligible, which hopefully she is, we can get her on the next agenda.
Okay, Council Branch has his hand raised.
Madam Clerk, can you also look and make sure that the policies that we set up for, I think, the Performing Arts Center Board, as well as the Go Raleigh Transit Authority, is met? Because I think we put some criteria on employment, because I know city employees cannot be placed on boards, and we made some statements about anyone that could be perceived as a city employee being on boards.
That's correct, and that is part of the looking at it to make sure we're all on the same track.
Okay, thank you.
The next is the Stormwater Management Advisory Commission. You have one vacancy. Councilmember Stewart, Mayor Pro Tem Stewart nominated Katie Taviro. So that will be on the next agenda.
Madam Clerk, that's Talavera.
Talavera. Okay, very good. Thank you. The next item we have is the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission. And during a recent meeting, Councilmember Melton asked that the membership be increased to 12. And it was directed that it be placed on this agenda to consider that. So the first action I would think would be to consider his motion to move the membership to 12, and then we can move for, know how many candidates we're considering. So I guess I'll turn it back over to the mayor or Councilmember Melton as to how you want to proceed on making that decision.
So Councilmember Melton, two things here. First, we have Robert Parrish, who his term is expiring. He does not wish to be considered for reappointment. Robert is sight impaired and represented persons with disabilities. I would like to ensure that we have a slot dedicated for that. So what I would like to do with that particular position is contact the Mayor's Commission on Disabilities and ensure that we have representation on there for that and fill that seat that way. Council Melton, do you want to discuss your motion or remake your motion from the last time?
Yeah, I move to, again, I renew my motion to add 2 additional seats to BPAC, which will bring it to 12. I propose that we'll have 4 vacancies now. I propose that 3 of them appear on our next ballot. And then the 4th one that the mayor just addressed, I propose we hold so that the mayor can contact her commission and we can come up with a deliberate nomination on that. So that's my motion.
Do I have a second? Councilmember Fort has seconded. All in favor, please raise your hands. Anyone opposed? Okay, that is unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, so we will have it on the next agenda for 3 vacancies for BPAC. And in the meantime, we'll be contacting the Mayor's Committee and come forward with a recommendation from that. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Clerk. Next, we have the report and recommendation of the City Attorney.
I have no report today, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have the report and recommendation of the City Clerk.
You have several sets of minutes for consideration. The council work session and the regular council meeting from the second meeting in January.
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes? Councilmember Stewart, do I have a second? Councilmember Buffkin, I think, was first. So all in favor? Clerk, that was unanimous.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, we have now come to the end of our agenda for this afternoon. We have no closed session. Just a reminder, we will be meeting at 7 p.m. this evening. I look forward to seeing all of you. We have a long night, so come prepared, and might want to bring some snacks too. I think it's gonna be a long one. So thank you everyone for being here. I want to particularly thank Councilor Stewart for adding some entertainment today to the meeting. That was pretty awesome. And we'll see you all tonight at 7. Thank you.